Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about the upcoming weather pattern. We have one Storm Prediction Center outlook now within the next 3 days, so we do get the categorical outlook for that one. There's still one that is in the extended range for the upcoming severe weather event. We do have multiple snowstorms expected, much more snowfall further south in the northeast of the Ohio Valley, the Great Plains, than we originally anticipated as well, so we need to talk about all of those things within this video. Anyways, before I get started with this video, though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content. I'd also ask that you do like the video and leave a comment down below for that YouTube algorithm. For today's comment of the day, I want to know, which month do you think will feature the most severe weather this upcoming spring? March, April, or May, or even one outside of that? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Let's get straight into this video, and we have pretty much 3 different stormy regions here. I'm going to separate these just to make things more simple, but there's one up there. There's one area of snowfall here, and then we also have this area in the northeast as well, featuring some snowfall and some rainfall. But just like yesterday and a couple days before, we have pretty much nothing going on in the southern United States. This looks like a 3-headed monster. I don't know how this always happens, where it always looks like faces, but that is what is going on. Let's go ahead and zoom into the northwest, where we do have that rainfall for this region. And again, it is flowing northward here, just like yesterday. And we do have this rainfall anywhere from northern California in through coastal Oregon, all the way up into the northern Rockies and all the way back down. So this includes pretty much all of Washington as well, in the western regions of Oregon there, and then very far northern Idaho and northwestern Montana there as well. Now, there is some areas seeing rainfall, or better yet, snowfall, but a majority of these regions are in the form of rainfall at this point. So that is worth noting. But if we zoom in here, we can see that for the Cascades, there is some mountaintops in this specific region here, where we are seeing some snowfall at points. And actually, as time has gone on, it's probably warmed up, but we've seen a lot more of that become rainfall than it was more snowfall beforehand. So also, when we take a look down here in Oregon, we do see that there's also some snowfall taking place in these Cascades down here as well, which these ones, from my understanding, are a little bit more spotty, but they're also extremely tall mountaintops down there as well. Now let's move up to this region here, where we're seeing quite a bit of snowfall. Now we're going to have to stretch this one out, because this stretches from Montana through down into North Dakota, South Dakota, even Minnesota, and then down into Iowa as well. A lot of that precipitation is now extending even into Illinois, as you can see, but some of that is in the form of rainfall. Now, we have had some heavier pockets of snowfall at points, especially with this Montana region of the snowfall. We see those blues showing up, which does indicate 30 dBz plus snowfall, so that is worth noting. Also for South Dakota down here, we do also have some heavier pockets of snowfall. It's just a little bit less consistent than that Montana region. I'm sure for areas up here that they are seeing actually some accumulation quite quickly with that snowfall, actually, I would say, which is pretty interesting. Now, for the northeast, we are seeing a bit of a nor'easter. It's kind of a Miller B nor'easter type system. The energy is kind of flowed like this. So what we ended up seeing was quite a bit of rainfall near that low pressure system. So for areas in here, we have had quite a bit of rainfall in there. And then north of there, we've had quite a bit of snowfall up there, although most of the snowfall at this point has moved out. But for northern Pennsylvania, northern Ohio, most of New York, a lot of Montana, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine has also seen quite a bit of that snowfall as well. So there's a fresh layer of snowfall for sure for pretty much most of these regions here. But this storm is moving out as we speak here later on the morning of March 3rd. So we are seeing that take place at this point. Now, I wanted to move further south because I did see some showers down here. Yes, these are moving generally on shore here. So that's also worth noting. We have showers hitting the east coast of Florida. Just some precipitation expected kind of for this region. There could be some spotty showers or a quick little thunderstorm down here, it appears, in the state of Florida, which does have a soft spot in my heart. You guys notice I always tend to just want to go down there on the map. Mostly, I think that's because I would love to be there right now, but also I do love Florida. I've been multiple times, and I'm kind of itching for a Florida trip here coming up. So I've been thinking about Florida quite a bit for the past month or two. Anyway, with that being said, guys, we're going to move on and talk about the model guidance because there is a lot to go over. Potentially a bomb cyclone at the end of the European model, also worth noting, quickly goes from 1,000 millibars down into the 970s. It's going to be worth noting that that is a possibility later in the pattern, really, some nor'easters potentially. That one, a big, big one that we're going to take a look at in a moment. So here we are taking a look at the European model. I just want to move a little bit past where this storm moves out. So we see the one in the northeast has moved out. This system up here kind of moves up further northeast with the jet stream. We're seeing the jet stream do about like this by this point. So the flow is kind of northward here, eastward here, and then kind of southeastward there. That's the flow. Now, we do see a storm try to disrupt things. This one that moves onshore to California there, mostly Southern California. We'll watch that happen. So that tries to disrupt the flow of things there. And as you can see, it does. It successfully disrupts the flow because this is the jet stream before it comes through. And then with the black line, I'm going to draw where the jet stream is after that storm really works its way in. It makes the jet stream basically do the opposite. See, it completely disrupts the flow because the storm follows that black line and it redirects the jet stream basically to follow it. There's the storm by the time we're reaching Saturday the 5th. So this is what leads towards, first off, the warmer temperatures that we're expecting later on this week into the weekend. And not only that, but also the severe weather here for the central United States is all caused by this disruptive low pressure system that makes its way in. So again, jet streams ridging in the west, troughing in the east, and then we see that storm disrupt it, bring tons of snowfall, by the way, to the western United States there, as you can see, snowfall from multiple different states. And then we see a ridge really working its way up, especially in the west or the central United States, but not only that, the eastern United States there as well. And then we see a 998 millibar low pressure center there over the central United States. It's going to move up like this. So we watch that play out. And then here's day one of severe weather. This is going to be Saturday into early on Sunday. We see up here some storminess begins for these states. That is the first day of severe weather. We'll take a look at the Storm Prediction Center's forecast in a moment, but look at this lingering snowfall out west. It's worth noting that the Rockies and some of the surrounding states are going to see a significant amount of snowfall over the next few days. Now, day two is going to be Sunday, so let's move well into Sunday. And we can see a lot of the storminess moves down south into this region, and this is where we have a risk of severe weather there on Sunday. Now, we see the trough is about like this. The ridge is about like this. The jet stream is moving around these features like this. So we see them move around town. Deep Arctic air up here where this trough is, and humid Gulf air where the ridge is. So we can expect extremely warm temperatures Saturday and Sunday. I know in Virginia here it's forecasted to be 80 on Sunday, which is unbelievably warm. That is truly that Gulf air and tropical air that is moving northward. You can expect windy conditions with this, by the way, because it takes a lot of energy to pull that warm air up northward that far during this time of year. I always expect windiness when temperatures that warm are expected. That's a good rule of thumb until you reach about May or June. Then you can kind of get those calm, warm conditions, if that makes sense. Then afterwards, it's worth noting that the Storm Prediction Center there's two things they can basically put when they're not going to put anything in the extended range. They'll either say predictability too low or potential too low. And Monday, March 7th, is one of those ones where they've said predictability is too low, which means they see the potential. So it's not that the potential is too low, it's just the predictability is too low. And during this day, I see a feature that is rather concerning that makes me think we could have some severe weather down here on Monday as well, because we have the classic setup, the low pressure system here, warm front here, cold front there, and this is going to come crashing through here. We also have snowfall on the northern end again, which is worth noting, obviously. Let's take a look at the Cape. Let's see if there is that potential. So we see there is some elevated amounts of Cape. This is Sunday there, or Saturday better yet, and we can see the green showing up, which is around 1,000. And especially there for we can see Kansas, Missouri, Iowa. We get well above 1,000 there, which is very interesting. Then the next day for Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, we get up to about 1,000. And then Monday there, look, for the Dixie Alley regions, we get those greens showing up in here as well, out ahead of that cold front, indicating 1,000 plus. Generally, you don't need 1,000 plus, but that's usually the rule of thumb that people use, is to get any sort of real severe weather event, you usually are looking for about 1,000 plus. There is special circumstances where that is not the case at all, especially for wind and tornado events. For hail, absolutely, you can make the case that you do need a lot of CAPE for that to take place in general. I mean, obviously it could happen, but very rarely outside of high CAPE amounts. But for wind, you don't need any, first off, and then tornadoes, you could even make the argument that you don't need any for tornadoes at times, but you don't need that much, really. Now, basically after Monday, we reached Tuesday, and we did see some potential on this day when we were looking at the long range, but at this point, there's basically no CAPE. So as far as thunderstorm activity, you can't really expect much on Tuesday for these southeast regions. Usually the further east you go over there, it's a little bit later in the year where you tend to start getting your first thunderstorms, as opposed to the south central United States. So this region tends to get them a little bit earlier. Same story with these regions. But east of the Appalachian Mountains, I would exclude Florida for sure. But for these regions, it's a little bit harder to get thunderstorms this time of year. Takes a little bit longer. Usually April, May is when you expect to see your first thunderstorms, or my first thunderstorms, because I live there as well. Now, let's move back to our precipitation type. So we can see this low pressure system moves up and out. Lingering snowfall, lingering cold front here, but it is going to move out. And then this is what we're left with. Some nor'easters trying to head up the coast now, because we get a colder pattern by the 10th here. This is the extended range. Take it with a grain of salt, but we have plenty of rainfall here. And now, typically, I know this is repetitive, we'll move back to the Cape. What's interesting about this is typically during nor'easters, you have a little bit less CAPE, but during this event here on March 10th through 11th, we actually get pretty elevated amounts here for this entire region. I know I just said it's harder for them to get thunderstorms, but this model says, hey, March 10th, we could have something going on there. So we'll have to wait and see. We get about 500 to 1,000 CAPE, which is generally considered to be enough, like I said, so we'll wait and see with that one. This one goes from 1,000 millibars quickly down to 990s, even 980s here, as it's chilling out right here, right over my neck of the woods. We see a warm front there, cold front there, and then we see snowfall that tries to take place here for the northeast. I was not kidding when I said they have tons of snowfall coming up potentially. And look at that, heavy, heavy nor'easter snowstorm here for these regions. So that could bring a significant amount of snowfall. These types of snowstorms usually tend to possibly bring 10 inches plus at times. That is worth noting. We get another storm system here moving through cold front here, featuring pretty much all snowfall, some sort of warm front there with no precipitation really. There is some warmer air along the eastern seaboard there, but that is rapidly approaching there. And what ends up happening is we get a secondary low developing here. We see some energy down here, obviously, tons of energy up here. And they all kind of come together and develop this secondary low, which eventually becomes the primary low. Right now, we know that this is the secondary low because this one is 1,004 millibars right there. And this one is a 991 millibar low pressure center. And they're within relatively close proximity there. So they're pretty much related. But what we see happen already by this point, well, this is 1,000 millibars there at 12Z on Saturday, March 12th. We see this low pressure system still 1,000. This one's 985. Now, by this point, they're separating, but this one's a 981 up here. This one's a 987 down here, rapidly decreasing. 6 hours after being, let's see. It goes from 1,000 to 987. So it drops by 13 millibars in 6 hours. And then it goes down to a 974 here. This one's a 979. So this one is now the primary low right here, because this one is a lower pressure. And look at that snowfall here. This is the very long range, by the way. This is 10 days out, but we do see that that is clearly a bomb cyclone going from 1,000 millibars down to a 974 within 12 hours. When the threshold is really 24 hours, dropping by 20 or 25 millibars. I forget which one it is, but this one clearly crushes that number, and half the time it breaks the threshold. So that is absolutely incredible, by the way. Although this is the very long range, it is worth noting that there is a huge storm signal here at the end of the model run. We will track this, but again, take it with a grain of salt. I just wanted to show you guys real quick before we move on to the GFS model, the total snowfall across the nation on this model. And you can see for the west, we expect huge snowfall amounts, especially here for the Rockies. This time of year usually starts to pick up for you guys there, so this makes sense. But clearly, huge amounts. Now let's move through the amounts here. Also huge amounts up here, by the way, for the Northeast. Let's just move through the different colors so you can find your region and see what you're in. But the gray is going to be a dusting, if anything, really, so minimal amounts there. Blues will be 2 to 6 inches of snowfall. Okay, purple's going to be 6 to 10 inches of snowfall. Pinks will be 10 to 20 inches of snowfall. The bright pastel blues, I'm going to circle some of these because it gets a little bit confusing. I don't know why that just stopped. Here's the pastel blues. Very bright, almost white color. That's going to be 20 to about 30 inches of snowfall. Now, as we move into these darker pastels there, almost grayish colors, we see some of this for the Rockies as well. It can turn purplish as well. That is where we're at 30 to even 40 or more inches of snowfall. We also see some of this for the White Mountains as well there in New Hampshire. So there's plenty of that around as well. Tons of snowfall is my point here, guys. Now let's move on to the GFS model. And as we continue on with this one, we're just going to move to... We see a monster storm here at the end of this model as well. Although this one stays the primary low right here. So we see this one move up and it just stays that primary low. This one does develop, but it really just doesn't ever outgrow this one here. So let's just move through with this. First off, I want to see if there's any cape with this storm. Oh yeah, look at that. That could be our first major severe weather event if it plays out like that, because we have high amounts of cape. That's 3,000 cape potentially. So that is extreme amounts of cape there. And it pushes some of those 500 to 1,000 amounts up the coast, but that's still obviously maybe going to bring you thunderstorms, not really looking at anything crazy there if that does play out. But that is worth noting that there is the potential for big time severe weather on at least one of the days here with this major storm at the end of the models. Both models at this point. We do have some good agreement here. This one goes from about 1,000, let's see, down to a 979 in 12 hours. So or 24 hours better yet. So I think regardless, this is a bomb cyclone. Regardless of which one here on these models becomes the primary low. As of right now, they both have a bomb cyclone. It's just a little bit different. But around the same time frame, they both do have a storm that bombs out, basically. This also features a rather large snowstorm here, and then a lot of rainfall along the coast, obviously. So this would bring very stormy conditions there to the eastern United States. And then after it's said and done, it would bring very cold conditions to the eastern United States, at least for a time here, winter-like cold, and then a ridge out west. So that is worth noting as well by the 13th. And then we start getting these storms mostly up here for the northeastern United States and the north central United States, Clipper systems, nor'easters. That one goes from 1,000 to 978 within 12 hours, or within 24 hours. So we get almost this one to bomb out as well, which is crazy. Except this is very, very long range. This you don't really want to base your plans based on that. Let me tell you that. But we do see stormy conditions prevail here in the northern United States. That's going to be worth noting. And that's going to be in the very extended range. But we've seen this range beyond 240 hours out change a lot when we've looked at it. So it's worth it to just take it with a grain of salt, I would say. Here is the day 3. So this is going to be for Saturday. We can see that we have a general thunderstorm risk here in this light green region, which means there could be some thunderstorms. Maybe even severe weather, but it's not forecasted at all at this point. This marginal risk area, sometimes we see some severe weather happen in these, sometimes we don't. It's something in between the slight and the general thunderstorm risk, obviously. So I would almost say it's like general thunderstorm risk with a little bit of chance of severe weather. Like there's some implications there that would tell you there could be some severe weather taking place. Now it's the slight risk area where we're really mostly concerned for this individual event here, which is that yellow region, and that is where we expect some scattered severe weather to take place in there. And it's we're unsure at this point what type of severe weather is really expected here on day 3 yet, but by tomorrow we will know. So, of course, stay tuned and subscribe to stick with us daily for these updates. Let's move on to day 4 here, and this is going to be for Sunday. It's going to be March 6th. We can see this is that southern threat. We see Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, a little bit of southern Missouri, a little bit of Kentucky, and a little bit of Tennessee there. And this is basically, this yellow region will translate to a slight risk probably. That's usually what we see. It's what we saw on day 3, because day 3 yesterday was day 4, obviously. So we were looking at that. It had this 15% chance of severe weather, and it translated to a slight risk. We do expect that to be the case with this one as well. Tomorrow, by the time this one is day 3, and the day 3 now is day 2. So stick with us. We're going to talk more about this over the coming days. Anyway, for today's confidence tab, can you guess what we're at? Obviously, a 4 out of 6. That's always what we're at unless there's any sort of particularly low or high confidence event. And at this point, we've talked about anything between the storms happening right now and basically like 300 plus hours out. So my confidence is pretty middle of the ground there based on multiple different things. Anyway, for today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, do you think it's going to be stormy in March? Or do you think we're going to see a quieter month? And Chris Coleman said, it'll be stormy at the end of March and April. Definitely interesting prediction there at the end of March and April. I don't know if he particularly means the end of April as well or the entire month of April, but definitely as we get later into March and into April is usually when the storms start to pick up as far as severe weather is concerned and thunderstorms. But only time will really tell with that because certain patterns could really choke out any potential for severe weather, and then certain patterns can really elevate those chances. So it really, really depends on what we see as far as the pattern. For today's patron, highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our Platinum patrons, Bill Crates, James Wade, David Nagel, Lord of the Pan, Mandy Birchfield, Patrick Strickland, Dave Scott, and Donna Carnes as well. I would also thank our Diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Marcus Connolly, Noah Holly, Michael Kodalasa, Catbite, Charles Stinnett, Bill Dallas, Garys, and John Calisi also. I'll also thank our channel members, Catbite, Stephen Fan, and Jeremy Cox as well. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. I'll see you guys in the next video.